Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Madly in Love with Me, the daring adventure of becoming your own best friend, by Arylo. Narrated by Arylo. To Lucy McIntyre Shapiro and Jane Roberts Wagner, my two goddess daughters, and their mother Anne, my soul sister, whose love and presence in my life made it possible for me to devote my life to sharing the message and teachings of self-love with the world. Introduction. Imagine a world of love. Welcome to a world of love. Come on in, take a seat, and put your love glasses on. Rose-colored, heart-shaped, or studded with diamonds, doesn't matter. In the land of self-love, we know two things for sure. No one but you is wearing these particular glasses. They are uniquely yours. And what you are about to see isn't a fairy tale or a science fiction tale. It's what becomes possible when you dare to choose self-love. Imagine, if you will, a world in which every girl born on this planet is born in love with and stays in love with herself. A world in which every girl, throughout the entire span of her life, never feels disconnected from the thread of love that makes her feel safe, loved, cared for, and special. Instead of learning to measure and therefore judge herself by the external images and standards that bombard her daily with the subconscious message, "You are not enough," each girl grows up believing that regardless of her accomplishments, body shape, love life status, or material possessions, she is more than enough, just because she is herself. The thought that her unique soul could be measured against and compared to that of another person or an outside ideal would never occur to her. To commit such an act on oneself would be, in her mind, insane. Imagine generations of girls and women who never suffer from eating disorders, who refuse to tolerate an abusive or toxic relationship in their lives. Women who take care of themselves first without guilt or obligation, rendering exhaustion and the sense of being overwhelmed obsolete, ancient diseases only read about in textbooks. To them, the notion that they should give and give and give until they have nothing left for themselves would be as absurd as placing their hands directly into the flame on a hot stove. The girls in this world would know, without a doubt, that in order to give, they must also receive, and self-care would be as natural as breathing and as everyday as eating. Now, imagine a girl or woman in your life whom you love dearly. What if she could go her entire lifetime without comparing, judging, or emotionally beating herself up? What if her first reaction was always to be kind and compassionate to herself, to tell herself that she was doing the best she could? Imagine how much more love and happiness she would feel, and as a result, how much more empowered she would be to live her best possible life, one that would give her everything her heart and soul really desired, not what she thought she should have, a life that would let her do and be whatever she chose. What a world that would be! And while this world may not currently be the norm for us, this reality is not so far outside of our reach. The possibility of this world already lives inside each of us. This possibility lives inside you. Imagine, if you dare. Put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, take a breath. Now imagine that the girl or woman we just spoke of, the one who loves herself unconditionally, who freely gives her gifts to the max, whose heart is open to receive endless amounts of love and support, who doesn't bother judging herself according to other people's standards or lives, but who instead has an inner compass she trusts implicitly to guide her to her happiness and greatest life, is you. You are the girl or woman who never drives herself to exhaustion, but instead makes it a priority to take care of herself daily, without guilt or worry that everything will fall apart. You're the one who asks for what you need. Imagine that every year as you age, you fall more in love with your body, even as cellulite or wrinkles get added to the package. To you, your body is a personal temple, and you adore and serve her and celebrate her for the one-of-a-kind body she is. Connected securely to the thread of love, you respect yourself so deeply that each of your relationships reflects that same unwavering respect and unconditional love. Or you don't remain in that relationship. You know your first loyalty must be to yourself. You'd rather be by yourself than in the type of relationship, whether it's a romance, a friendship, a working relationship with a colleague, or a family relationship with a relative, that keeps you from living your greatest life or being your best self. You're not afraid of being alone because you know you are always with you. As a result, your life has more love, not less. Imagine being as compassionate with yourself as you are with the girls and women you currently love without question. Imagine loving yourself without question. Imagine that all the self-love is as natural as breathing, because you always remember and hold sacred the idea that the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship of your life. Wherever you are on your self-love journey, today marks your commitment to keeping the thread of self-love alive all year long, an everyday connection to your heart and soul. In the book that follows, you will take a stand and make sure that from this day forward, your relationship with yourself is as important as every other relationship in your life. This means that just like in any other relationship that you want to flourish, you'll need to give it love and attention often. Just like in a relationship with a romantic partner, if you want the relationship to rock, you'll need to communicate, check in, and be committed. And just as you do almost anything to make sure your best friend or your child had what he or she needed in order to be, love, and live the magical, fantastical life your friend or child deserved, so will you make sure you get what you need. Today you promise to remember to love yourself every day for the rest of your life. For if you aren't willing to make sure you are happy, loved, and well cared for, then how can you expect anyone else to? So how do you do that? Have no fear. You are in the right place. Because while you may not have received the self-love handbook while growing up, the one that would have shown you how to be and act as your own best friend always and without apology, you hold it in your hands right now. Why didn't you receive the self-love handbook before now? The wisdom of how to love yourself is ancient feminine knowledge, and the permission to do so is an indisputable birthright, both of which could be and should be passed down from generation to generation, available from the moment we are born and at every moment following that. Imagine how your life might have been different if self-love had been spoken of openly as you grew up. What I am speaking about is not just the you can do anything rah-rah talk, but also the message of unconditional love, that no matter what you accomplished, you were enough, and you were loved. Imagine if the women you looked to as role models had been stellar examples of self-care, self-compassion, self-awareness, self-expression, and self-respect, because their mothers had passed down to them the knowledge of self-love. What if together you became a strong tribe of women, bonded through love, each committed first and foremost to being her own best friend, knowing that this promise to herself was what allowed her to be a loving mother, auntie, grandmother, godmother, and big sister, who could teach others how to love themselves. An approach like this sure would have saved us all a lot of hefty therapy bills and unnecessary pain and suffering. Self-love never crossed my mind until the day my life hit rock bottom, when my fiancé decided he didn't want to marry me. on the way to our engagement party. Ouch. It was only after 2 weeks of begging this man to take me back and crying so much that I had to stop wearing eye makeup altogether that I was finally able to gather my self-honor and self-respect, and as a self-empowered woman committed to herself first, leave behind my home and life as I knew it. Raw, defenses down, and the blueprint for my perfect life ripped to shreds, I found myself face to face with a really hard question. How did a smart woman like me end up in a place like this? While I didn't expect a verbal response, within seconds, a voice within me blared like a radio. Well, Christine, you don't love yourself. You like yourself a lot, and you've got a ton of self-esteem. Yes, you believe that you can do anything you set your mind to, but you don't love yourself. And frankly, you don't even know what that means. Damn, my mouth gaped open. While I didn't like what this voice had to say, she was right. Oh, and wait, now that she had the microphone, there was more. And while you look like you have this great life, the friends, the traveling, the money, the stuff, and you have achieved lots of success in your career, the truth is, you are settling for less than you deserve. You know it, and I know it. Damn, right again. I was a woman who, if she had stopped being busy long enough to be honest with herself, would have realized that even though she had it all, the life she was living was never going to lead her to happiness. A woman who, if she had been taught to feel her feelings rather than stuff them down, would have seen that her relationships were never going to give her the loving, respectful, and soulful connections she craved. A woman who knew how to work hard and had tons of self-confidence, but who had never considered self-compassion, self-care, or self-acceptance as essential to cultivate as things like success and financial security. I was a woman who had never considered self-love. I found myself realizing how badly I needed to find it, but I had no idea where to start. My first step was to ask all my friends, really smart, successful women, how do you love yourself? What is self-love? And how do I get some? They surely would have the answers, right? Wrong. They were just as dumbfounded and ignorant as I. They too had never considered such questions. None of our studies, advanced degrees, or cultural indoctrination from reality TV shows, romantic movies, and tabloid magazines had provided any clues. So I asked some of my older female relatives, can you tell me how to fall in love with myself? I assumed that because these women were older, they must know the answer. Their replies were worse, although they sure did explain a lot about how I ended up in my current circumstances. They said things like, why would you want to know such a thing? Stop asking so many silly questions. Just be happy with your life as it is. It was then that I realized I, and most every woman I knew, had descended from a long line of stuffers and self-sacrificers. Women who had been taught to stuff their feelings and instincts down, or mistrust them altogether, to put their needs at the bottom of the list, if these made it onto the list at all, and to forge ahead no matter what, preferably with a stiff upper lip and unwavering sense of confidence. Our female predecessors had no Oprah, after-school self-esteem programs, or self-empowerment weekend workshops. All they had was a self-sacrifice handbook, Extreme Edition, whose main teaching said something like this: give, and then give some more, and then give some more. And even when there's nothing left for you, or even when you have nothing left to give, give more. Suck it up and never complain, at least in public, because it's your duty to give, not receive. This heavy burden-promoting handbook never talked about needing to fill yourself up before you give to everyone else. It had no passages about loving and nurturing yourself or ensuring that you always act as your own best friend. No examples of how to give to others without giving away yourself in the process, or how to serve the things and people you love without sacrificing your dreams and needs. Unfortunately, this old handbook taught women to equate our self-worth with how much we give and get done in a day, without regard for our own self-care, self-compassion, self-respect, or self-pleasure, aka self-love. If we weren't giving everything we had away, keeping ourselves busy, or silently suffering or toiling in some way, oh, the guilt and the feelings of inferiority. Ugh. Thankfully, a wave of feminism rejected the suppressive model of what and how a woman was supposed to be. And while still influenced by this old message of sadistic self-sacrifice that our overly patriarchal society clung to, we now had access to a new self-empowering tome, the Self-Esteem Handbook. With it came new opportunities, more equality, and a permission slip to express ourselves and pursue our desires. Yes, finally, we women were empowered by the message of self-esteem. We were liberated to pursue the lives we wanted for ourselves, fully empowered by a new belief. Be smart, be confident, and be the best you can be. You can do, be, and have anything. Today, girls grow up knowing that they can choose to go to college, get married or not, travel the world, and become anything they can dream of being without having to rely on a man to get there. We are more empowered and financially independent, and we are free to express ourselves as confident, powerful women. The message that we can do, be, and have anything has taken us far. Thank you to all who fought to make this possible. And yet, there is still more road for us to travel. Something is still missing. If you look at the tired faces of women and the stressed out and overscheduled lives of girls and ourselves, you can't deny that we have learned to equate strength and success with getting a lot done, staying busy, and having financial success at any cost, even the cost of our own happiness. This fact is backed up by a study conducted by the Rockefeller Foundation and quoted in a Time magazine article that compared the level of happiness experienced by women in the 1970s to that of women today. The results are revealing. Yes, women have more opportunity and equality, but we aren't happier. Our happiness levels have stayed the same. Translation: more work and less happiness. Raw deal. Today, from the moment you, as a little girl, learn to read, watch TV, and mimic the women around you, you start feeling the pressure to do, be, and have it all. You grow up striving to attain and maintain the perfect body, the best grades, the successful career, the big bank account, the happy relationship, the ageless face, the perfect family, and on and on. Everything that you see outside of you as the ideal. You're conditioned to believe you must have it all at the same time and must do and be everything perfectly. So when you begin to realize you don't or can't, instead of asking, why the heck am I working so hard to achieve this unrealistic expectation, you are more likely to ask, what's wrong with me? While there may exist somewhere a superwoman who has the ability to meet all these expectations in a single bound, we mortal women cannot. Instead, full of self-esteem but lacking unapologetic self-care, we drive ourselves harder than ever before, striving to live up to the manufactured images that create our unrealistic expectations, which in turn feed our feelings of never being, doing, or having enough. Lacking a strong sense of self-compassion, we never measure up, and instead are extremely hard on ourselves, emotionally bludgeoning ourselves daily. Lacking unwavering self-respect, we ignore the state of our relationships and let our external self-confidence mask the deeper insecurities we can't even admit to ourselves. Lacking self-worth, we never feel like we are enough, no matter how much we do or achieve. We are a generation of women and girls starving for self-love, without the tools to find it, and without the permission to keep it, until now. What is madly in love with me? Madly in Love with Me is more than just a book. It is an international social change movement, a call and an invitation to every woman alive today, including you, to take a stand for every child and woman in this world, including ourselves, and to say, enough with the self-criticism, self-hate, self-abuse, and self-neglect. Enough with the unrealistic measures of what a happy and successful woman looks like. Enough with being treated by anyone with anything less than respect and unconditional love. It is a giant permission slip for every single one of us to fall madly in love with ourselves. And yes, I mean madly, as in expressing the love you have for yourself without shame, apology, or holding back. And while this particular book is written by a woman to women and girls addressing much of the social conditioning that has taken us away from our natural tendency to love ourselves well, men and boys are also invited to participate. As it turns out, every person on this planet can use what self-love has to offer. Love is a human need. Madly in Love with Me is a challenge to take a stand in your own life, to be and act as your own best friend, no matter what. To show up for yourself, to put your self-care first, to remind yourself how fabulous you are, often, and to always be on your own side. Madly in Love with Me is a huge promise to yourself to always remember what the little girl inside you needs: laughter, joy, play, hugs, unconditional acceptance, and compassion, and to give it to her. At the same time, it's a promise to go for her big girl dreams and desires, even when they don't make sense to anyone else. When you say yes to Madly in Love with Me, you say yes to freely and fully expressing yourself. You also say yes to treating yourself with love and respect, and requiring that you get the same respect and unconditional love from every relationship in your life, without exception. You say yes to being, loving, and living you. Consider this book your own personal, fantastical, magical handbook of self-love. Just like one of those storybooks you'd open up with giddy delight when you were a little girl. Remember how you would open the cover, and in an instant, it was as if you had been transported into a different world, where outside time just seemed to stop. Where you became friends with the characters, and together you traipsed through magnificent new lands, expanded possibilities, and previously unimaginable creations of happiness and splendor. Oh my! The only difference between this book and those magical storybooks is that this story is all about you. You are the main character. You are the storyline for Madly in Love with Me. When you begin listening to this book, together we will imagine and create new, magical, fantastical realities for you, guaranteed to fill your life with extraordinary amounts of happiness, love, and freedom. This is your life. You get to decide what it is filled with. It all starts with you. Choose to fill yourself up with love, and you'll create more love in your life. Choose to fill yourself up with care, and you'll be better taken care of. Choose to fill yourself up with compassion, and you'll receive more understanding and kindness from others. See, it's magic. You choose self-love, and more of what you want and need comes to you. Let the magic of love directed toward you begin. The Madly in Love with Me Manifesta. We believe that every woman has the right to fall madly in love with herself, to be so in love with who she is, to so deeply honor her body, mind, and spirit, that every choice she makes reflects that same deep honoring. We believe not only that she is entitled to love herself, but also that she is empowered to love herself simply because she is. In this world where a woman knows how to fall madly in love with herself, there is no need for her to fit into someone else's image of what a beautiful, intelligent, and successful woman is. She need only be the woman she truly is inside her soul. She is free to be fully. In this new world where a woman is encouraged to fall madly in love with herself, There are no apologies for who she is or is not. There is full acceptance and celebration of who she is right now in this moment. She is free to love fully. In this world where a woman lives a life where she falls more madly in love with herself every day, there is no living for tomorrow or sacrificing and settling for less today. There is only the creation of the world that her heart and spirit desire at the very core of her essence. She is free to live fully. As madly in love with me women, we believe, 1, every woman desires and deserves to be loved deeply for exactly who she is today. 2, every woman desires and deserves to be free to fully express herself without apology. 3, self-esteem is not enough on its own. Lasting happiness requires self-love. 4, the love, freedom, peace, and happiness every woman seeks always starts inside herself. 5, finding that love, freedom, peace, and happiness within ourselves is a journey that deepens over a lifetime. Falling in love with ourselves is something we do forever, and we feel it more and more strongly as time goes on. And 6, all women deserve to love themselves, to have fun doing it, and to have the company of other women along the way. For a guided trip through this fantastical world of love and self-love, go to www.madlyinlovewithme.com and view the 3-minute video, Imagine a World of Love. This video will guide you on an adventure in imagining a world in which you love yourself unconditionally. After you finish watching the movie, close your eyes, wrap your arms around yourself in a loving embrace, and feel that you are already a beautiful, powerful, and free woman, just because you are you. And get ready, because there is a whole lot more of this magical feeling of love directed at you in the chapters ahead. Part 1. See the love, the truth about self-love. Chapter 1. Why is it so hard to say I love you to yourself? Recently, I was asked to speak at a college conference of sorority girls, the leaders of our future world and the mothers of our future children. From my place up on stage, I could see all their young, hopeful faces waiting for me to share my secrets on how to be a successful woman in today's world. There was no doubt that these girls were excited to be at this conference, to learn, to continue to excel, and work toward their goals. So when I asked for each to turn to her neighbor and say, I would really like to have a tremendous self-esteem, it was no surprise that every young woman in that room excitedly turned and pronounced her commitment to believing in herself. When I asked these young women to raise their hands to indicate if their proclamation of self-esteem felt good, every hand in the audience went up, as if to say, of course I want self-esteem. Self-esteem is good. This was a great sign. The message that holding yourself in high regard is something to cultivate had seeped into their consciousness to such a degree that without apology, they were able to publicly claim their right to high self-esteem. The next question, however, elicited a much different response. I turned to these future leaders and mothers and posed this question. How many of you would now turn and say to your friend, I would like to love myself? Silence. Then squirms. A few giggles pierced the air, but not one hand went up, except for mine and that of my friend in the front row, another author, speaker, teacher, and woman on her own self-love journey. Instead, the girls moved uncomfortably in their seats, dumbfounded at the notion of publicly making such an audacious statement, embarrassed to say the word love in a way that pointed their feelings of love toward themselves rather than toward another. These young women just sat in their seats, staring at me. They had no idea how to respond, so they waited to see what I would do and say next. In an inspired moment, I dropped down to my knees, wearing a dress and heels, mind you.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?